Yuya is a fat, ugly, and pathetic loser who gets bullied every day for being a worthless virgin. One day, he discovers a secret door that leads to a fantasy world where he gets a cheat skill that makes him unrivaled in the real world as well.
Oh my god!
After leveling up, he moves from zero to hero while bashing monsters and raising all the real world baddies and even their princess. But it all starts with, in the corner of an alley, where Yuya spots some wannabe thugs harassing a hot chick named Kaori and decides to play hero. Yu approaches them and tells the simps to back off. However, seeing the ugly pig's face ruins their mood and they proceed to beat him to a pulp. Eventually, the cops arrive and the simps decide to bounce. Later, the baddie tries to help Yuya up, but Fatso tells her that he is fine, trying not to disappoint this 10 out of 10 babe. As he walks home, Yuya remembers that his grandpa told him to help those in trouble. But like the graffiti on the pig's door, the world sees him as a fat bacterium. In the past, at school, Yu's classmates would run a 24/7 roast session on him like it was their 9-to-5 job. Even worse, his parents had him on do not touch status, acting like he had caught the ugly virus, making sure Yuya's clothes didn't touch theirs and his good-looking siblings. When Fatso got to middle school, the bullying went to a new level, and he was treated like trash. Back to the present, Yuya lays on the floor wondering why his life is stuck in hard mode. Still, his grandpa is the only one who stood by him, telling the fat pig to stay based and play the long game because happiness would later come. However, Yuya's grandpa passed away, leaving him with a house and his possessions. But then, due to the fact that Fatso's parents were blocked from looting his grandpa's fund, they responded by ghosting Yuya's existence entirely. As a result, the poor boy is left to work part-time to make ends meet. The next morning, it is a beautiful graduation day for everyone except the fat pig whose yearbook is filled with Ohio names. Later, Fatso is caught by his bullies who decide to give him a Mortal Kombat combo special for his graduation gift while others, including his siblings, watch in delight. After the beatdown, Yuya is late to his job and gets fired by his boss. A while later, Yuya arrives home and eats a soggy ramen while sulking in his personal depression. Fatso goes to the toilet to clean up, and when he sees his disgusting face in the mirror, the pig can't help but smash it with his fist. During his self-loathing, Yuya stumbles into his grandpa's freaky room, where he finds a bunch of his old geezer souvenirs. As he moves deeper into the room, the virgin boy finds a sus-looking door, and when he opens it, a system menu pops up claiming that he has acquired an appraisal skill. After inspecting the sus-looking door, the system replies that he is the master of the door leading to another world. Just then, Yuya decides to check his stats and notices that his stats are absolute garbage. Soon after, the ugly protagonist looks outside the window, and it is clear that he is in another world. Later, Yuya finds a letter that states that the house in the other world belongs to a sage and is bound to Fatso by magic, so no random bot can invade. A few moments later, little Yu picks up a sword and goes out of the house. After swinging the sword, he unlocks a swordsman skill. The ugly pig is surprised he opens a skill that fast and decides to pick different weapons from spear, scythe, gauntlet, and a bow. Subsequent to trying out all the weapons, Yuya unlocks a true martial arts skill. He puts all the weapons into his pocket storage. Suddenly, a level 300 ogre tries to enter while Fatso screams like a little girl. However, the house barrier restricts the ogre. Seeing no other options, Yuya chucks a spear at the ogre, which creates a glory hole in it. After unaliving the ogre, he tries to catch his breath. But when his system menu pops up, he receives more stat points than a gym bro after taking steroids. He then goes over to check the loot drop from the ogre and decides to distribute his points to his satisfaction. Later, Yuya is exhausted and attempts to leave, when suddenly his system converts his loot drop into enough cash that can upgrade his life. That night, the teen boy goes through an accelerated puberty. He wakes up the next morning with a ripped six-pack, and when he checks his wood, he realizes his Asian persuasion is now an African hammer.
So that was a f***ing lie.
He then goes to check himself in the mirror, but it is still smashed. As his old clothes won't fit him anymore, Yuya finds some clothes that fit in the sage's house. A while later, RMC is at the sage's garden and realizes he can see better with all his fat gone. He waters the plants and learns about several different kinds of species. Suddenly, a level 200 slime tries to enter the house and Yuya uses his spear to take it out easily. From the loot drop, the loser gets a necklace that collects sunlight which can be converted to magic energy and puts it on. Later, the low-budget hero exchanges his loot drop for cash and gets a new uniform made. From that moment on, the former Fetty watches over the sage's house. He eats his meal from the garden and forgets his depression as his curiosity about the other world overshadows it. That evening, Yu fights an elite goblin and takes it out with ease. However, he fears that no matter how strong he gets in the other world, school is a tougher battle. The next day, our hot boy is walking to school and all the chicks are getting misty over him. His Riz is so sick that his own sister wants to have some plot development with him. After arriving in class, Yuya's regular bullies approach him thinking he is a transfer student. However, to everyone's surprise, the useless protagonist tells them that he is the same fat pig. The others call Cap thinking Yuya is in Delulu Land. Later, Yu goes to the restroom and checks himself in the mirror. He is shocked that he's now a Giga Chad. Behind the school, his bullies can't process that their personal punching bag now has aura and Riz status. Suddenly, a car pulls up and out of it comes Kaori, looking like a Japanese version of Barbie. After confirming that he's Yuya, she points out that he's lost a lot of weight. The hot boy can't comprehend why she is acting so familiar with him, so she explains that she is the same girl he tried to play superhero for in the alley. He asks her how she knows his name, forcing her to admit that she did some personal investigation into him in order to properly thank him for getting ragdolled by bullies for her sake. She then asks him to enroll in her school, Aosei Academy, and this shocks everyone because they know it is a school for elites. Seeing this, Kaori introduces herself as an officer for Aosei Academy, and her butler reveals that Kaori's father, who is the chairman of the Aosei Academy board, wants him to enroll in the school after hearing of his failed hero act. Yuya attempts to turn it down by bringing up the fact that his grades stank more than his sweaty armpits, and his two siblings try to take the offer on his behalf, but Kaori immediately shuts them down. The two idiots give up when Kaori brings up the fact that they are low lives who get off from picking on others. So Kaori offers our protagonist a final pitch by saying the academy prioritizes character over academic scores, and her butler suggests giving Yuya a tour of the academy. The hot boy agrees, so they ride off in her fancy car, leaving the dimwit students jealous. When they arrive at the school, Yuya goes to the chairman's office where he's greeted by Kaori's father Tsukasa. The chairman expresses his gratitude to the virgin hero for saving his daughter, and Yuya immediately jumps off his seat to tell the old geezer to lift his head back up. Kaori brings up the fact that he is the only one who looked in her direction while the simps were trying to have their way with her. Tsukasa tells him to be proud of his actions before asking him to enroll at their school for free. Yuya starts to feel insecure because he knows he isn't nearly as smart as the other big-brained brats that attend this school. However, Tsukasa explains that the real meaning of genius is someone who is able to find the right way to direct their efforts more quickly than others.
What?
In response, the blockhead asks if inborn talent is more important than hard work, causing Tsukasa to explain that Aosei Academy is built for young people who are willing to challenge themselves. He then advises the virgin hero to take his time and face himself, and this makes him remember his grandpa's final words. Tsukasa then offers him the opportunity to spend the day at the school on a trial enrollment, and their conversation gets interrupted when a baddie teacher named Ri shows up. Tsukasa tells Ri about his new arrangement with Yuya, and she agrees to teach him everything he needs to know. Seeing the confused look on Yuya's face, Tsukasa tells him not to worry because Ri is the school's own version of Senku. A while later, the Sigma Lord arrives in class, and his Riz is so powerful that every lady in class wants a taste of him. The teacher tells the ladies to behave themselves before directing Yuya to a seat by the back window. When he takes his seat, the teacher tells him to share textbooks with a baddie named Yukine who is seated beside him. After introducing himself to Yukine, her nonchalant facial expression makes him feel like she hates him. But little did he know that she is completely rizzed up by him. During the class, Yuya gets stunned as he realizes that the students are more active than at his other school. After class, a bunch of NPCs swarm the hot virgin with questions, but they get sent off by a classmate named Ryu who immediately befriends him. After a bit of chit-chat, they go to the cafeteria where Yuya gets astonished by the school's menu, which is far more elite than McDonald's. When Ryu tells him that the food there is free, Yu claims that the school is just like heaven. After getting their orders, they join the table of a nerd named Shingo. It didn't take long before Shingo and Ryu start geeking out about some trashy isekai anime they watched, and this makes Yuya comfortable around them. Just then, Yu notices that everyone is staring at him, and Ryu says it's because his Sigma energy is too strong. When Yuya asks Ryu which club he belongs to, he replies that he's part of the Going Home Club. Shingo explains that Ryu joined that club because he couldn't make a decision on a proper club that would make use of his amazing athletic ability. Four Eyes then brings out a Nintendo game to reveal that he's part of the gaming club. Yuya is surprised by the fact that he's using games on school grounds, so Shingo explains that the teachers don't mind when it's not being used in class. Later that day, the freshman tells Tsukasa about how much he enjoyed the experience at their school, particularly the fact that the students were having lots of fun. Yuya is also pleased by the fact that the students were all treating him like a human being, which is something he is not used to. Tsukasa asks if he's made up his mind about joining the academy, and Yu once again expresses concern that he's not worthy of being in such an exclusive school. After another pep talk by the chairman, the virgin boy finally agrees to join their school. He leaves the room and sees Kaori standing outside. When he tells her about his decision, she says she's glad and then asks him to go somewhere with her. She takes him to a popular shopping district where many students go after school. Yuya asks her if she usually visits that location with friends, and she replies that she is a hopeless loner thanks to her family status. With her face shining bright red, she admits that she wants to try coming there with you. A while later, they have some crepes together and they're amazed by how delicious they taste. As they eat, Yuya asks her how she recognized him despite his huge body upgrade, and she replies that it is because his eyes are the same. The doofus replies like a shy turd, and Kaori gets annoyed because he called her by her last name. When she tells him to start calling her by her given name, he hesitates but eventually calls her Kaori. Afterwards, she feeds him her crepe, causing the virgin's 2 brain cells to get in a spiral since it is his first romantic encounter. He then feeds her a bite as well, causing everyone around to be stunned by how cute they are. That evening, Yuya puts on his armor and returns to the other world. There, he destroyed an ugly monster which made him level up. He realizes that there are more powerful monsters outside the fence, so he decides to explore. However, he hears a scream which makes him instantly summon his weapon before running into the forest. He eventually arrives at a spot where he sees a level 200 ogre terrorizing a human girl. When the ogre approaches him, he distracts it by throwing his sword, allowing him to take it down using a brutal dropkick. When the ogre tries to attack him from behind, Yuya dodges its first attack but still gets slashed into a tree. After minutes of panicking, the Temu Dark Knight charges at the monster again and uses his bow to rain arrows on the beast. The ogre deflects his shots, but this only allows him to destroy it once and for all using his Omnisword. After the battle, Riz King goes to check on the girl and she asks who he is before losing consciousness. A little later, Yuya is ironing his clothes while wondering if the lady in the forest is okay. He remembers how he used invisible mode to avoid the knights that came to her rescue after his battle, and he decides not to worry about her anymore. He then realizes that his shirt is whack, and he resolves to use the money he earned to get some new clothes. As he walks around the mall, all the ladies stare at him like he's Timothy Chalamet. Unable to handle the pressure of his own riz, he runs to a different part of the mall. Meanwhile, a goofy-looking modeling agent yells at a model manager because his model is running late again. The manager gets a call from the model who informs him that he's on the way, yet the agent still gets enraged. The angry bird informs the manager that they are doing a shoot with the theme "My Hot Boyfriend and Me," which means that they can't proceed if the boyfriend isn't there. He reveals that the lady model named Miyu has been ready all morning and the agent is desperate and decides as a last resort to just grab a man somewhere in the shopping mall. At the same time, Rizboy is at a complete loss, overwhelmed by the different fashion choices on display. Suddenly, 2 girls approach him and offer to help him on his shopping mission. Yuya turns them down politely by telling them he had other plans for the day. As he leaves the area, he wonders if he did right by the girls, but little did he know that his rejection made them thirst for him even more. On the escalator, the buff model agent spots Yuya and immediately picks him for the boyfriend role. Yuya poses with Miyu while the cameramen take photos of them, and he wonders how the hell he got here. He does several other fun fashion shoots with Miyu, and when she notices he's nervous, and she says it's a normal reaction since it's his first time. Yuya takes a quick peep at all her God-given assets, and he gets flustered when she gets close to him as she speaks. The agent tries to take a picture of them, but notices how stiff Yuya is, and asks them to move over to the stairs so he could have a better angle. As Miyu walks away, Yuya realizes that she is amazing because of how effortlessly she works despite being the same age as him. He decides to get it together so that he doesn't become a burden. However, she gets close to him for their next shot in a way that her melons were pressing on his arms, and this makes the handsome goof lose all composure. The agent then tells Miyu to wrap her arms around his neck, and when she does it, her chest presses on him even more intensely, causing him to be even more embarrassed. Miyu notices how flustered Yuya is getting while taking the photos, but the photographer doesn't mind at all as they keep snapping away. Elsewhere, the lady from the forest named Lexia sits on her bed, wondering who the glorious Riz King that saved her was. She eventually walks out of her room to tell her guards that she's going back to look for the man who saved her ass in the darkest regions. The guard tries to convince her that it's a terrible idea, but the lady insists that she has to thank him for saving her life. After the fashion shoot, a lady hands Yuya a coffee and Miyu apologizes for getting him wrapped up in their modeling mess. When he sips the coffee, he starts coughing uncontrollably, causing Miyu to hand him her personal hanky to clean himself up. Afterwards, he admits that a model's job is hard before telling Miyu that she's amazing. The bombshell replies that she is actually still pretty new to it, and admits that she used to make mistakes all the time during her early days. Yuya then admits that he isn't used to wearing such fancy threads and asks Miyu why she decided to become a model. Miyu says it's because she just wants to be seen, and then tells him about how her parents barely had any time for her. She goes even further to confess that all of the fans that see her on screens and magazines makes her happy. She also claims that it would be amazing if people got inspired to get into fashion or modeling because of her. Miyu then advised Yuya to enjoy every moment to the fullest so that his future can be as bright as possible. As they laugh together, the model agent takes even more photos of them. Eventually, the model who was originally planned for the shoot named Shu shows up, causing all the ladies in the area to go crazy.
It's payback time.
Shu starts to use Riz tactics that make Miyu uncomfortable, and Yuya decides to play hero by telling him she's not feeling his vibe. Angered by his interference, Shu attempts to punch Yuya in the face, but the Riz hero easily counters by slamming him on the ground smooth as butter. Afterwards, the hot boy gets worried that people would be down on him for his violent display, but instead everyone around starts cheering for him. The model agent pours salt on the wound by telling Shu that he filmed the entire thing, causing him to walk away as fast as he could. After he left, the model agent asks Yuya to join the world of modeling, but the freshman declines by admitting that he's not nearly good enough to become a model yet. The agent then hands him some high-end clothes as payment for his efforts, and they shake hands. Afterwards, he bids them farewell before walking away. As they drive away in a truck, Miyu tells her agent that she'd love to work with Yuya again, and he responds by teasing her over the fact that her face is red. Later that evening, Lexia and her guards struggle against some monsters in the other world before Yu makes a dramatic entrance by defeating all the monsters to save them. As he feeds her guards some recovery potions, Lexia throws a curved ball by asking the Riz King to marry her, making everyone's jaw drop. The guard asks Lexia what she's doing, and she replies that she's proposing to the man she wants. The guard brings up the fact that they know nothing about Yuya, but the dumb princess claims it's love at first sight. She then starts chewing out the guard for always challenging her decisions, and he tries to explain that it's because she is acting shameful despite her exalted position. The virgin hero interrupts their argument by inviting them to his house as a shelter from the monsters, and they are stunned by the fact that he has a house in the forest. When they arrive at Yu's place, he offers them some coffee, and the head guard introduces himself as the captain of the knights of the Arcelia Kingdom named Owen. Lexia also introduces herself as the first princess of the Arcelia Kingdom before thanking him for saving them earlier. Yuya is amazed by the fact that she's a princess, and when Owen reveals that she's second in line to the throne, Yuya asks if a peasant like him is meant to be speaking with her. Owen says it's alright because it's an unofficial visit, and Yu then introduces himself to them. When Owen points out that his name didn't sound like one from the Arcelia Kingdom, Lexia guesses that the handsome boy is a noble from another country. However, Owen tells her he could be a mage wandering the world for research, but the doofus princess still starts fantasizing over the idea of Yuya being royalty. Owen also speculates that Yuya could be a spy from another country.
Come on, man.
But he immediately dismisses the idea when he realizes that the Riz hero doesn't have more than 2 brain cells. Yuya interrupts their gossip and tells Owen to call him by his first name instead of his family name. Owen then reveals that they'd been looking for him because he saved Lexia from danger in the deepest regions, and Lexia apologizes for not being able to thank him when they first met. Lexia then fully goes into simp mode as she confesses that her heart has been racing uncontrollably since the day she saw the Riz hero. She once again asks Yuya to marry her, but the aura-farming hot boy turns her down lightly by saying it's all too sudden. However, Lexia refuses to back down as she brings up the romance novels she's read where love overcomes obstacles. She claims that it wouldn't be fun if things go smoothly right away, and then she asks Yuya if they can start out as friends. Yu can't believe that a royal baddie is offering him friendship, but he accepts her offer anyway, and she immediately grabs his arm out of excitement. Owen ruins their party by saying that they're done expressing their gratitude before bringing up another matter which they have to handle. As the princess rides away in her chariot, she bids her crush goodbye while promising to win his heart the next time they meet. Earlier, Yuya was shocked when Owen disclosed that he was summoned to the royal palace because the king intended to express his gratitude to him in person. Back then, the Dark Knight said it was all too sudden, but Owen said it was a royal command which they couldn't leave unfulfilled. Yuya eventually agreed, and Owen said the trip would take 5 days, so Yu asked him to wait until a later date. Meanwhile, a mysterious man reports to his boss that the assassins he sent separated Lexia from her guards like he planned, but they were annihilated when they encountered some powerful monsters. The boss asks why Lexia is still alive, and the man tries to explain that he doesn't have any information on that, but the boss tells him to leave immediately. As the man walks away, the boss says to him he wouldn't get a second chance, and after he leaves, the boss remarks that he would never forgive Lexia for what she did to him. Meanwhile, Yuya marks a date on his calendar as the day he'd meet the king, and then he grabs his bag before heading out for school. On the way, all the girls started fawning over him, and he has to hide his face just to get by. When he arrives at Aosei Academy, the chairman says he didn't have much time to give him a pep talk before telling him to have as much fun as possible. During class, Ri announces to the class that the Riz King would officially be joining them. Immediately, his buddies Ryu and Shingo start smiling at him. A while later, the students are playing soccer and Ryu scores a goal that's more amazing than anything Messi did, causing Yuya to praise him from the sidelines. Just then, a girl named Kaide appears behind him and asks why he isn't playing with them. Riz King explains that he hasn't received his gym clothes yet, and she officially introduces herself to him. He tries to be formal with her, but she tells him to call her by her first name. On the football field, the players pull off amazing moves with the ball, and the ball eventually gets to an airhead who shoots it in the direction of Kaide. Yuya seizes this aura farming opportunity by pulling off an acrobatic shot that sends the ball into the net.
Pow!
Everyone is astounded by what they just witnessed, and Kaide's face nearly explodes when the Lord of Riz tries to check on her. The airhead who shot the ball rushes in to apologize to Kaide, and when she says she forgives him, he starts simping for her. Ryu explains to Yuya that he's not a bad guy despite his lack of brain cells, and the guy introduces himself as Akira. He then starts giving himself some goofy nicknames that make everyone laugh out loud. A while later, the girls in the changing room gossip about the incredible feat Yu pulled on the football field. And when Kaori enters the room, Kaide fills her in on what happened. Yukine claims that it's a superhuman feat, and the girls start arguing over whether Yuya has a girlfriend or not. During English class, Riz Boy notices Kaori outside waving at him, when suddenly a biker gang pulls up in the school field. The teacher orders the students to stay in class before rushing out to confront the bikers. As the students watch, some NPCs explain that the gang in their yard is a group known as the Red Ogres, and they are the most dangerous biker gang in the area. Yuya remembers that the Red Ogres are affiliated with his former bully, Araki. The thugs then confront Kaori, and the two rejects from earlier shows up to openly declare that they are the ones orchestrating this attack to punish Kaori for rejecting them. However, Kori reveals that the police would soon arrive and tells them to stop what they were doing. Instead, the doofus duo order some of their thugs to grab Kaori. Seeing this, the low-budget Dark Knight tries to rush to the rescue, but he suddenly gets frozen in place. He starts to wonder why he is scared despite the fact that he'd faced tougher opponents in the other world. When people in class start checking on him, Yuya slaps himself back to his senses before jumping out the window. He lands on the field and immediately rushes to confront Araki. Araki's men try to attack him, but he disarms them at a speed that Naruto would be jealous of, before sidestepping an attack by Araki just as fast. He then rushes towards Kaori, but is soon faced with a heavy sumo wrestler. When the sumo wrestler attempts to attack him, he easily flicks him away before checking on Kaori. Just then, the head of the Red Ogres starts riding his bike towards them, but Yuya dodges his bike and redirects him so that he collides with some stairs nearby, causing his bike to explode. Soon after, the police arrive, and as the ruffians are being arrested, the Red Ogre leader starts choking out Yu's little brother, Yuta. The Bussen hero tells him to let go of Yuta, and when the Red Ogre leader turns to attack Yuya, the Riz Lord stops him with a terrifying glance. Yuta asks why Yuya saved him despite all his torment, and Yu replies that he can't abandon family. This makes Yuta and his sister start crying as they apologize to Yuya for everything they did to him. Some days later, our Dark Knight puts on his adventure gear and is about to go exploring when he gets a flashback of Owen telling him that the area he explores is the darkest region of all the most dangerous regions in all the lands. Back then, Owen made it known that the monsters Yuya defeated like cannon fodder had enough power to destroy a large city. Yu wonders what kind of place the sage lives in as he makes his way through the gate. A while later, the Timu Black Knight destroys a monster and laments about how the monsters in the area aren't as strong as Owen hypes them up to be. He places his weapon back in its containment and decides to call it a day. Before he can leave, he hears the scream of a wolf that is getting clapped by a huge orc. The orc yeets the wolf into the corner, causing a dark aura to emit from its body as it passes out. Yuya watches from a tree while in stealth mode, and he's stunned by the Elden Ring boss level stats he is seeing on the orc. Yu feels bad for the wolf getting battered, but he knows playing hero at his current level will most likely send him to meet his grandpa in the afterlife. As he starts to walk away, the orc gets even more vicious with its attacks on the baby wolf, and Yuya realizes that his gramps would have never backed down the way he is about to. The virgin hero deactivates his stealth mode and draws 2 blades while claiming that he desperately wants to save the wolf. He tries to make the orc shift its attention to him by launching his spear at it before charging in to face it off. However, he gets dazed when he noticed that his first attack is so overpowered that it destroys the orc. Yuya is baffled by his own strength, and then he remembers when he defeated a bloody ogre that was way more powerful than him when his stats were all at 1. He wonders who the sage that made his weapons truly is. Just then, the baby wolf starts growling at him, so he offers it a cold drink before it randomly passes out. Yuya then heals the injured pup, causing it to start licking his hand when it regains consciousness. After a bit of questioning, Yu asks the pup if he can take it home. When it agrees, the status bar pops up, showing a skill that can make monsters into allies. As Yuya checks the pup's stats, he sees that it's called a Black Fenrir, and also gets shocked when he notices that its status is pretty high.
Okay.
The Dark Knight then names him Knight because of its fur color, and the little wolf immediately jumps on him to show approval. On their way home, they run into several item drops, including a brush which Yu uses to smoothen Knight's fur. Subsequent to Yuya checking his stats, he's stunned to see that it hasn't increased, even though he defeated an opponent that was much stronger than him. He decides not to overthink it, and says he'd eventually understand how the level up system works. Sometime later, Yuya arrives at school where he tells his friends that he has a dog. Kaide gets all up close to Mr. Virgin as she asks for pictures of his dog, so he calls her out for it. After she backs away, Yu indicates that he doesn't have a smartphone because he felt that he didn't really need one until just that moment. Ryu then directs him to a pet shop in the area, which is also an animal hospital, and Yuya decides that he'd go there after school. Ryu says he unfortunately can't follow the hot boy because he has gooning plans, and Shingo also claims that he isn't free to accompany Yu after school. However, Kaide offers to go with him, and when Riz King agrees, she points out that it is practically a date. Later that evening, Yuya returns home to the company of his new loyal friend, and he gives Knight some items which Kaide picked out for him.
Do me a favor, please. Get out of here.
He explains to Knight that he doesn't have to wear the collar at home, but rather when they go out on strolls. He then puts on his collar and takes him out on a walk in the park where, once again, all the ladies can't control themselves when they get an eyeful of his immaculate riz. Just then, he gets greeted by an elderly man, and this amazes him so much that he thanks Knight for making him more approachable. He then runs into Kaori and introduces Knight as the new member of his family. She asks to pet him and Knight immediately runs to her in approval. As she pets him, the people around stare with their jaws dropping to the floor like it's a telenovela show. Kaori asks Yuya what species Knight is, and the Rizful tamer lies that he has no idea his species because he rescued him off the street. The beauty queen then points out how happy Knight looks that Yu took him in, and she calls Knight a smart dog since he looks like he can understand what she is saying. Just then, they hear a female voice call Yuya's name, who turns out to be Miu. Yuya asks her what she is doing there, and she responds that she usually takes strolls in the area every evening. The Riz King then introduces his two ladies to each other, and the people in the area start losing their minds because of how beautiful they all are together. Miu then proposes meeting up with Mr. Handsome again sometime later, and after he agrees, she bids them farewell and leaves the area. After Miu leaves, Kaori asks Yuya if he is dating Miu, but the Virgin King immediately shoots that down. When he says that he's not good enough for Miu, Kaori angrily remarks that it isn't true. Just then, they spot a criminal running away with an old woman's purse, so Yu asks Knight to chase down the man. As Yuya checks on the old lady, Knight drags the thief back to them. The thief escapes Knight's grip and charges at Kaori with a dagger, but Yuya stops him just in time before effortlessly taking him down. The people around all clap like they just watched a superhero movie, and Kaori thanks the low-budget Batman for saving her. That evening, Yu and Knight head into the forest together, and they use combo moves to take down a bunch of monsters. Eventually, they arrive at a spot where RMC sees a deer monster named Crystal Deer, which has higher stats than the orc they fought before. He also notices that it has magic, so he wonders how he can deal with it. All of a sudden, the Crystal Deer gives him a terrifying stare, which makes him ponder how it can see him despite his stealth mode. The protagonist eventually decides to face the Crystal Deer head-on. Knight holds the deer down while Yuya charges in to make a blow, but unfortunately the deer starts throwing magic blasts at him. RMC Boy realizes that it can use two different kinds of magic, so he decides to use a new attack formation with Knight. He tells Knight to create an opening for him, and the mutt starts to hop around the battlefield like a ping-pong ball. Knight then manages to bite off part of the Crystal Deer's neck, allowing Yuya to finish it off by stabbing it in the exact same spot. After the battle, Yu looks through the item drops, and he finds a box which transforms into an open-air bath. He realizes that it would be too dangerous to bathe in the forest, so he changes it back to box form as they make their way back home. Later that evening, Yuya and Knight share a relaxing bath together. On another night, they both face off against a super-fast rolling monster called a Needle Roller, which has them on the ropes. When the Needle Roller tries to attack them again, Yuya moves out of the way, causing it to get stuck in the rock behind him. Knight hits it deeper into the rock, allowing Yu to finish it off with a slash. After the battle, Yuya notices that his level and stats have increased, and when he checks Knight's stats, he realizes that Knight's level increases the same way he does. A while later, they walk into a dark tomb where they see some corpses as well as a book titled The Book of the Sage. When Yuya opens the book, he's blown away by its contents. Yuya reads through the pages and the sage's words to learn that he'd mastered everything possible and entered the realm of the gods while still alive. According to the sage, he declined the invitation of the gods to join them. The sage then says through his book that Yu possesses power that even he doesn't fully understand, and predicts that one day humans will begin to fear him for it, just as they did for him. The magic-obsessed Neat continues to read through the book, and the sage tells him that he doesn't want him to end up as lonely as he was when he entered the realm of the gods. The Timu Dark Knight starts to wonder what he could do to make sure that he doesn't scare the people around him, and he suddenly hears a voice which advises him to build relationships with people he can trust. Yuya says that it's a very high hurdle to clear because he hasn't had any friends until recently, and when the voice replies that it's a hard subject, Yu gets to know that he's practically having a conversation. The sage advises him through the book to find friends at his own pace, and then he offers to inscribe whatever Yuya wished to know into the book. The excited boy requests to learn about magic, and the book glows before the sage discloses that he just inscribed the book with everything he knows of magical theory. The sage then claims that an otherworlder like Yuya can't use magic because he didn't possess something called magical pathways. Sage explains that humans in that world produce magical energy in their hearts, which circulates through their bodies through their blood vessels, and he then decides to hand you his magical pathways. The book starts flipping uncontrollably as glowing words fly out of it, pushing Yuya into the corner. As parting words, the sage wishes the new magic user a happy life, and Yu pays his final respects to him before leaving. After returning home, Yuyuta reads a book which instructs him on how to activate his magic energy. When he follows the instructions, he feels magic flowing within him, and the status bar informs him that he's unlocked a magic energy manipulation skill. He discovers that he now has the magical pathways which the sage told him about, so he celebrates by patting Knight on the head. The book then instructs him to gather magic in the palm of his hand and imagine the kind of magic he wishes to invoke. He's astonished by the fact that it doesn't require incantations, and when he reads further, the book reveals that naming magic yourself makes it easier to invoke when the time comes to do so. He goes out to the yard to give it a try, and he begins by manifesting a water ball spell. Knight follows suit by creating his own water ball spell, and the two of them celebrate the fact that they're now magic users.
I'm here to tell you right now, we don't care.
Let me tell you something.
We don't care.
Following the instructions from the book, Yu and Knight fire the water ball at a nearby tree. Meanwhile, Owen tells the king about Yuya and begs him to admonish Lexia for suddenly proposing to him. This ticks the king off so much that he has a massive crash out in the palace, swinging his sword and yelling slurs at the Sigma Lord for seducing his precious Lexia. During class the next day, Ri is calling attendance while Yuya Wisey decides to be careful about when and where to use his magic. Ri then announces that they'd be going for an off-campus study the following week, and this surprises Yuya, since he never received the class schedule. Yukine explains to him that they'd be camping together for 2 nights in order to learn how to acclimate to new environments. Ri discloses that they'd be split into teams of 4 for this exercise. After she announces the teams, Kaide expresses her happiness over the fact that the glorious Riz Lord is in her group, and Akira also meets Yuya to inform him that they are teammates. Before he can start listing all his goofy nicknames again, the 4th member of the group stops him and introduces herself as Rin. Yuya brings up the fact that he doesn't have a rucksack, and Kaide immediately seizes the opportunity by asking to go shopping with him. A while later, Yu meets up with his group of friends on a street, and they're completely flabbergasted by the fact that he's friends with Kaori. When Yuya asks about Akira, Shingo says that he couldn't come because he had plans. They soon enter a mall where Kaori picks out a rucksack for their hot boy. After getting everything they need, the gang decide to have some fun together. They head to a gaming center where Shingo starts geeking out about some magical girl game he wants, which is the prize of a crane game. Yuya decides to play the crane game on his behalf, and to everyone's surprise, he wins the magical girl game on the first try. Afterwards, Yu easily wins another crane game to get Kaide a prize, and because of this, everyone starts pestering him to win them prizes of their own. The arcade game Overlord wins prizes for the entire crew, and he's surprised by how happy this makes them. When Ryu suggests heading to the 2nd floor, the girls tell him they have to head elsewhere for a girl thing they have. On the 7th floor, the men bond while having some drinks together, and Yuya tells them about how much fun he's having. Shingo suggests they return to the cafe sometime later, and they all agree to do so. Just then, the fire alarm starts buzzing, and a lady announces that there's a fire outbreak on the 10th floor. Realizing that the girls are on an upper floor, Yuya rushes out to check on the girls. He arrives at a door where a security guard asks him to evacuate. When Ryu calls to check on Kaide, she informs him with a faint voice that they couldn't get out in time. Before the security guard can update his comrades, Yuya slips past the guard and runs at full speed to the 13th floor. When he arrives there, he creates a water spell that envelopes his body and rushes in to look for the girls. After minutes of sprinting desperately, he finally finds them. He scans the building to ensure that there aren't any other people trapped before picking up the girls to leave. However, the fire gets more intense, causing him to doubt if he can make it while carrying the girls. He eventually reaches a dead end and decides to improvise by shattering the floors beneath him to reach the bottom floor. When the smoke clears, everyone sees Yuya carrying those girls like All Might, and he assures them that he's fine. After that, the firefighters yell at him and Tsukasa arrives at the scene to thank him for saving his daughter once again. The Riz hero hands Kaori a toy she lost in the fire, and she cries in her dad's arms. When Yuya arrives home, Night greets him, and he decides to make dinner for the both of them. Sometime days later, Yuya is practicing magic again, and this time he imagines his intended destination, causing him to teleport into the forest. There, he celebrates with Night, but points out that he can't teleport to places he hasn't been to because of the fact that he'd have to imagine it first. However, he remains pleased because he can use this skill to transport himself back home in time to cook meals for Night. A while later, Yuya walks into a dark tomb while using a light magic spell to see around. He reaches a spot where he finds some ugly goblins, and he wastes no time to reduce them to pork chops while Night picks up the scraps. After the battle, the Timu Dark Knight is stunned by the amount of awesome stuff among the item drops, and he cheerfully points out that he and Night are becoming the ultimate duo. He stores the items up and tells Night that they needed to end their exploration for the day. Night starts pouting, so he explains that although he'd like to continue their playtime with the monsters, he has to go home to prepare for his class trip. Nevertheless, Night suddenly runs off, and when he chases him to a spot where the little wolf barks an instruction at him. Realizing that Night is telling him to hide his presence, he activates his stealth skill, and they spot a girl getting manhandled by a bunch of goblins. The virgin hero tries to rush in to make the save, but Night pulls him back. He starts to wonder why the little wolf is telling him not to save her. In a shocking twist, the girl starts chopping the goblins apart using some special threads. The goblins charge at her again, but she holds them off using her threads. One goblin eventually knocks her into a tree, and they move in to finish her off, but the Dark Knight and his little ranger pull off a dramatic save by defeating the monsters. However, an even larger group of monsters appear, and Yuya takes them all out in one attack using a special weapon called a Divine Whip. Our Bussen hero checks the stats of the weapon, and he's shocked by how powerful it is. He walks back home while carrying the damsel in distress, but Night is opposed to the idea of bringing her home. The girl suddenly wakes up and knocks Yuya around until he drops her on the floor. The Riz hero hands her a healing juice for her injuries, and she reluctantly accepts his drink. When she drinks it, it heals all of her injuries instantaneously and even erases the pain completely. She asks Yuya who he is, causing him to introduce himself and Night. The lady introduces herself as Luna and says there's no need to stand on ceremony with her. Yu then asks why she was in such a dangerous place, and she replies that she was training before getting attacked by the Goblin Elite Pack. The virgin hero divulges that he and Night defeated the monsters, and a shocked Luna thanks him for saving her. She then asks him why he was in the darkest regions, and he stutters while explaining that he's training there in order to get stronger. Luna is surprised that anyone would be dim-witted enough to train in such a dangerous area, and then she points out that they are both idiots, causing them to laugh together. Afterwards, she asks Yuya if he was the one who carried her there, and when he says yes, she apologizes for how sweaty and disgusting her body was thanks to the goblin chase. She says she needs to rinse off in a river before heading back into town, but the Riz King offers her a bath instead. As she bathes in Yuya's open-air bath, she says it feels good and thanks him for it. The used-to-be Fatso tells her that he obtained it by defeating a crystal deer, and this impresses her. Luna discloses that she came there at a customer's request, but when Yuya doesn't quite hear her, she says it's nothing and asks him to accompany her in training for a while. Yu realizes that he'd worry for her if he lets her continue training alone, so he agrees to her request. However, he points out that he wouldn't be around all the time. Suddenly, she comes out bare-chested from the bath to express her enthusiasm, and the virgin's brain starts to crumble as he tells her to head back inside.
Why are you gay?
Who says I'm gay?
You are gay.
Much later, Yu, Night, and Luna take down a bunch of goblins together, and as they continue their training, the low-budget Night and Luna learn a lot from each other. With help from Night, Luna dismantles a goblin, and the Sigma Lord praises her for now being able to take down those monsters easily. However, she claims that she has to get better in order to complete her mission, but the virgin hero says he'd have to take a break from their training for a while because of other obligations. She thanks him for his help, and he thanks her back before telling her to have as much fun as possible since it's their final day of training. A while later, Yuya takes a bath with Night, and he wonders why Luna wanted him to use the bath first. Luna answers his question by saying she wants to share the bath with him as a way of commemorating their final day. The virgin hero is amazed by the sight of this baddie in a towel. Bro tries to escape, but she stops him by hugging him from behind and thanking him for accommodating her selfishness. She claims that she's gotten stronger because of him and also says he saved her by showing her a brighter world. She decides to show gratitude by washing his back, and just then, her towel falls off, leaving the Gooners startled by all the treasures on her body. When he tells her about her fallen towel, she shyly picks it back up and asks him not to look at her. The next day, Yuya plays a card game with his friends aboard the school tour bus. After stacking up wins against them, he decides to take a nap. He starts to wonder if his recent streak of luck was thanks to a skill. A while later, Kaori wakes him up to inform him that they've reached their location. Yuya is astonished by the tall building in front of them, and Ri instructs them to head to the assembly hall. At the assembly hall, Ri explains that the off-campus study trip is to train them as future elites. When Akira asks about food, she tells them that they could either gather some mushrooms and edible plants from the forest or get some fish from the river. The rich kids start freaking out, so Ri informs them that there's also some rice available. Ri then requests that they show whatever they find to them before eating it, and that the school doctor, Miss Yomakawa, is there to treat them in case anyone gets sick. When Akira starts yapping like a coward, Ri tells him to shut up before he spills the tea that they're actually in a competition. Yuya asks what they get if they win, and Ri divulges some useless bonus that only benefits her. Ri then drops the ultimate bombshell by saying the facility is for the teachers while the students have to camp outdoors. In the forest, Rin suggests that the Riz King and Kaide should go fishing while she and Doofus Akira search for mushrooms. In the fishing area, the Sigma Lord runs into his best bud Ryu. After chatting with Ryu for a while, he uses his scan skill and finds the best spot to catch fish. Kaide worries that their poles wouldn't be good for shallow waters, but Yuya shocks her by walking into the water himself with the fishing bucket. Following some instructions he got earlier from Luna, he catches a lot of fish with his bare hands while everyone watches in shock. Kaide stops him by pointing out that he'd already caught more than they needed. Meanwhile, Luna uses her threads to cut an item, and she realizes that it's much sharper than it initially was. She puts on a mask to hide her identity as a member of the dark guild known as Headhunter, and then she shatters the door in front of her. A while later, RMC Boy and Kaide meet up with Rin, and Kaide tells her about how the Aura Farming King caught all the fish in the bucket with his bare hands. Rin points out that Yuya's athletic abilities are better than Prime Ronaldo's, and then Yuya asks what happened to Akira, who's laying on the floor helplessly. Rin says they should leave him there like that, but Akira suddenly springs back up and starts accusing her of working him like a dog. Yu goes to check on him, and when he scans him using a skill, he's relieved to find out that his physical health is fine. Sigma Lord advises him not to do too many reckless activities again, and Akira immediately starts simping for him. Some minutes later, Yuya's team looks through all the stuff they've gathered, and Kaide is pleased by what she's seeing. After scanning the items, MC Boy removes some dangerous mushrooms from the bunch, and then he asks who would cook these items for them. The gang acts clueless, so he suggests going to show the teacher what they'd gathered as a start. When they return to the facility, the former Fatso meets up with Kaori, and they talk about how much fun they're having before Kaori leaves to rejoin her group. After she leaves, Akira questions Yu about his closeness with the Beauty Queen, and then he loudly expresses his desire to become close with Kaori as well, causing everyone to look at him like a doofus. The Riz King asks why Akira called her a princess, and Rin explains that it's because she's the chairman's daughter and also because she carries herself elegantly. Some minutes later, Ri checks the items of Yuya's group and compliments them for being the first group to bring a large batch of mushrooms that doesn't have any death triggers. However, she instructs them not to relax because cooking will be graded as well. When she asks which of them can cook, everyone points at Yu, so she urges him to do his best so she can get her bonus. Later that evening, the rest of the team watch as Yuya prepares a Gordon Ramsay-level meal for them. The taste of the meal leaves them speechless, and some teachers who tried the dish are also astounded by how delicious it is. As everyone expresses their love for the meal, Sigma Lord is pleased by the fact that other people are enjoying his cooking for the first time. All of a sudden, Ri asks Yuya to marry her, and this makes everyone at the dinner table yell at her. Kaide tries to convince her to give up by saying Yuya isn't a good person, but that only makes her want to try harder. Yu tries to turn her down lightly by pointing out that she's a good teacher, but that only inspires her to plant his face in her melons.
Nice.
Later that night, Yuya teleports back home to meet Knight. He prepares a hearty meal for him, and as Knight eats, he admits that he gets happy every time someone says his meal is delicious. In the boys' bathroom, all the boys can't stop themselves from gawking at Yuya's manly body, and Akira suddenly starts crashing out about how virgin boys' abs are making him feel inadequate. In the ladies' changing room, Kaide takes off her top to uncover her bouncy cannons. Rin immediately starts fondling them while teasing her for joining the track team despite the heavy weapons she's carrying. When Yukine and Kaori arrive, Kaide tries to get them to stop her, but Rin gets them on her side by using some masterful gaslighting techniques. Kaide then brings up the fact that Ri asked to marry Yuya, and this stuns Kaori. Rin narrates the whole story to them, and Kaide starts talking about how she intends to defeat Ri. When Rin asks if she's into Yu, Kaide immediately denies it even though she knows she's secretly all about him. As they talk, Kaori and Yukine start feeling insecure about their small chests. The next day, Yuya and company sees that someone or something had messed with all their stuff. Rin suggests going to gather some breakfast ingredients, but Akira is frozen in fear as he stares at a bear paw print on the ground. He eventually joins them, and they arrive at a spot in the forest where Timu Dark Knight spots some bear claw marks on some trees. Just then, the bear crashes the party and chases Yuya's team all the way to the camping area. The teachers try to guide the students to a safe zone, but on their way, Ri falls to the ground, leaving her right in the path of the bear. When the bear is about to make the kill, Yuya grabs its arm and wrestles it to the ground while everyone's jaws drop to the floor. He then checks on Ri, and she thanks him for saving her ass. When one of the teachers named Uiwa comes to check on them, Yuya asks what they will do with the unconscious bear. Uiwa suggests holding onto it until the police arrive, and after they restrain it, Kaori informs them that the bear will now be used as a guard dog for the school trip. Kaide asks what they would do if the bear attacks them again, and Kaori replies that they'd simply turn it into barbecue. After the off-campus trip, Yu and Knight head into the forest where the hot boy defeats a powerful monster using a giant hammer. Afterwards, he picks up a helmet as an item drop, while a strange creature watches him in secret. Some minutes later, the Riz hero meets up with Lexia and Owen, and they give him an official greeting before offering to escort him to the palace. Before they can begin their trip, Knight suddenly shoves Lexia to the ground and Yuya destroys a tree which fell in their direction. Yu notices some invisible threads in the area and realizes that Knight was only trying to protect Lexia. He tells Owen to take care of Lexia before asking Knight to lead him to the person responsible for the assassination attempt. When the Dark Knight confronts the assassin, he's stunned to see that it's Luna. He discloses to Lexia that the assassin is someone he knows and begs her for some time to heal Luna's injuries and speak to her. Suddenly, Owen storms into the forest looking for Lexia, and she tells him that she's going to Yuya's home again for a while. At Yu's home, Luna rests on a bed while the hot boy explains his relationship with her to Lexia. Lexia then asks Yuya about the magic he used to transport them from the edge of the darkest regions to his house in an instant. The magic liberator admits that he created the spell for transportation, and she points out that teleportation magic is something of legends. She explains that it's magic that exists only in fairy tales and hasn't been seen anywhere, and states that if discovered, it can turn everything that society knows on its head or cause a war. The doofus princess then makes him promise not to use it in front of others without thinking, and he agrees to do so. Lexia then asks Luna how long she intends to pretend sleeping, and when Luna ends the facade. She makes it known that even Yuya is aware of her faking it right from the start. Lexia asks Luna to tell her about herself, but Luna tells her to just hurry up and kill her. Yu joins the conversation by expressing his desire to know more about Luna as well. Luna spills about how she was an orphan who scavenged through garbage and worked as a thief, struggling desperately to survive until a day when someone took her in. The person taught her how to read and write and also showed her various assassination techniques. She says that her master is a professional assassin from the Dark Guild. Yuya asks what the Dark Guild is, so Lexia explains to him that they're an unlawful organization that commits all sorts of crimes. The assassin continues her story by disclosing that she joined the Dark Guild the same way her master did and completed several assassination missions which earned her the nickname the Headhunter. Hearing this, Lexia is shocked because she heard that nickname countless times, and Yuya realizes that Knight had known her secret right from the very beginning. Luna then spills the tea that her most recent mission is to erase the princess. She says she's toast either way because her execution is assured the minute she attempts to take the princess' life, and the Dark Guild would send assassins to kill her if they find out she failed her mission. Yuya expresses concern, so she tells him there's no reason to worry about scum like her just because of a few days of training they shared. However, Riz King cuts her off by saying that he thinks of Luna as a friend. Headhunter says it's too late because her future is already set in stone at that point. But Lexia throws a curveball by asking her to serve her as a personal guard. Luna tries to debate the idea by bringing up all the blood she spilled with her own hands, but Lexia gets even more pushy as she forces her into accepting the offer. Meanwhile, Owen and his guards are being chased like rats through the forest by some armed orcs. Some minutes later, Lexia tells Luna to refer to her by her first name before asking about Yuya's bath. The baddie assassin tells her all about the wonderful qualities of the bath, and she demands to test it out herself. She asks Yuya to join her in the bath, but he instantly declines.
We don't do that here.
Later that evening, Lexia and Luna enjoy the bath together, and Lexia stuns her newest guard by asking if she likes Yuya. Luna claims that she and the Sigma Lord are just friends, but Lexia gaslights her into confessing her true feelings. Hearing this, Lexia officially challenges her to a war for Yu's heart, and Luna agrees to be her love rival. When they return to Yuya's home, Lexia offers to make dinner, but her attempts at cooking are so bad that she nearly unalives Yuya and Luna in the process. The virgin hero ends up cooking a meal for them, and the ladies marvel at the amazing taste. Lexia hugs Yuya out of excitement, causing Luna to get so jealous that she baits their to-be husband into feeding her. Afterwards, Lexia forces Yu to feed her as well. The next morning, Yuya and the girls meet up with Owen and the guards in the forest. The Dark Knight introduces Knight to Owen, and Owen thanks Knight for saving the princess during their earlier encounter. When Owen asks about Luna, the clumsy princess says that she's the assassin who tried to kill her and is now working as her bodyguard. Hearing this, Owen and his guards surround her until Lexia convinces them that the born-again assassin is no longer gunning for her life. Yuya then tells Owen that he can no longer go to the palace because of a personal matter he has to deal with. In response, Owen tells him to come to the royal palace whenever he can and shows him the directions he needs to get there. Afterwards, Lexia waves Yuya goodbye, and Luna one-ups her by kissing him on the cheek. Some minutes after their departure, Yuya and Knight enjoy a hot spring bath together, and they're surprisingly joined by a pig creature named Maoju, whom Yu had somehow tamed. The Dark Knight asks if to use a holy ground skill it possessed, and when it activates it, he notices that it has healing effects. Yuya names it Akatsuki, and Knight interrupts their bonding session by saying that it's way past his school time. In class, Ri announces that the students will soon participate in a football competition. During P class, the teacher splits the class into co-ed teams for soccer, and Yuya lands the position of keeper for his team. When the game begins, Ryu dribbles past several students to score an easy goal for his team. Rin starts to provide premium content for the ballers by fondling Kaide's milk bags. However, this distraction allows Akira to zoom past their team's defenses.
Oh my.
When he takes the shot, the Rizzler catches the ball in the blink of an eye. Ryu tells him to throw the ball as far as he can, so he nonchalantly throws it into the opposing team's net, leaving everyone in disbelief. Some days later, Yu walks back home with his best buds Ryu and Shingo while talking about how he newly joined the ping pong team. They get approached by some agents who invite him into the entertainment industry, but Sigma Lord immediately turns down their offer. He then explains that he can't get into the entertainment industry because he wants to keep enjoying his school life to the fullest. As the agents start to argue, Miyu walks out of the car to meet Yu, and the agents show Ryu and Shingo a magazine which has the Riz King and Miyu on the cover. Just then, Kaori arrives carrying some flyers for their upcoming competition. When the agent sees the flyer, she comes up with an idea to use the event as a stage to take even more photos of Yuya and Miyu. She drags her assistant Kurosawa to the chairman's office to go ask for permission. That evening, Yu and Knight defeat some skeleton monsters. After the battle, the Dark Knight finds out that he has to improve at intertwining magic with his attacks, and he starts to wonder if he can ever get stronger on his own. He decides to head even deeper into the forest. Yu eventually arrives at a spot where he gets attacked by a giant creature called a mithril boar. The boar overwhelms Yuya and his pets with its attacks, and they get saved by a strange white rabbit. The whooped hero is stunned by the fact that the rabbit can talk. The boar tries to attack the rabbit, but with one kick, the rabbit annihilates it along with the trees in the area. Yuya checks its stats and realizes that it's a monster called Kick Rabbit who's way more powerful than he looks. The rabbit spends the next several hours training Yu in the art of kicking, and the virgin hero eventually gets strong enough to knock down some trees with his kick. Afterwards, the rabbit begins a sparring match with him, and the two of them clash intensely until the next morning. Afterwards, the Kick Rabbit announces that he's chosen Yuya to be his successor. He explains that he's part of some brings called the Divine who are masters of their fields and are tasked with taking care of some beings called the Vile. Yuya then accepts the rabbit's offer to train him, and the rabbit asks the Dark Knight to teach him some magic in return. Sometime later, Yuya gets chased around the forest by a superior version of the mithril boar monster, while Rabbit Man watches from the sidelines. Rabbit stops Knight from interfering, and Yu manages to defeat the monster using a special weapon. The status bar shows that the Sigma Lord is now at SS rank, and the rabbit says that their enemies, the Vile, are at a level far beyond that. Yuya then experiences a process called evolution which gives him more skills. The next day, the virgin hero engages in a ping-pong match against a student so skilled at the game that he's referred to as the Sniper. Sniper catches Yuya unawares with a sneaky serve, and Yu responds with a smash that destroys part of the ping-pong table. The hot boy drops out of the match, but gets dragged to the volleyball court by Kaide. When the game begins, Yuya lands a shot that destroys the opponent's half of the court. A while later, the Sigma Lord is asked to act as Kaori's partner and replace a wounded player on the tennis court. During the match, he pulls off moves that would put Prime Natal to shame, and he ends up winning the game for the both of them. That evening, the Riz King walks home with Kaori, and she surprisingly kisses him on the cheek. Much later, Miyu's agent looks through the photos she took of Yuya during the ball game, and she still remains determined to make him join their agency. Meanwhile, Yu introduces Kaori to his pets, and she tutors him on some math as a way of thanking him for teaching her classical Japanese and English. When she leaves for the bathroom, she stumbles into Yuya's secret room. Subsequent to Yuya joining her there, she says she feels something calling out to her. The Sigma Lord tells her that the door in the room connects to another world. He shows her the barrier and explains that the door only lets people he designates to pass through. He says that the world on the other side is a magical world and shows her a demonstration of his water magic, while explaining that he's gained a lot of insane abilities which allowed him to save her multiple times. He then takes her to the other world and discloses that his pets are species from that land. When her status bar appears, he explains it to her and tells her that he used to be the lowest piece of garbage before leveling up. Kaori says she'd like to see more of the fantasy world, and Yu tells her about all the dangers of that world before promising to show her around someday. The Rizzler then tells her not to disclose his secret to anyone, and she relishes in the fact that she now has something personal with Yuya. Meanwhile, Luna tells Lexia's father about her failed attempt at his daughter's life, and the old goof immediately tries to end her for it. However, Luna stops him by tying up his arms with her threads. Lexia states that she was the one who stopped Luna's execution by making the ex-assassin her personal guard. Afterwards, Owen accidentally tells the king that Lexia visited Riz King at home, causing the royal idiot to have the mother of all crash-outs. Elsewhere, the mystery man reports everything that occurred between Yuya, Lexia, and Luna to his boss, and the boss hands him a magic ceiling barrier for the next stage of his plan. The boss identifies himself as the son of the king and also states his plan to frame Yu for his crimes. The next day, Yuya visits a town in the other world where an old merchant offers him a bag of gold coins for some Japanese pepper he brought him. He also hands the hot boy a guild card and instructs him to carry it at all times. The next morning, the virgin hero arrives at the royal palace, and Owen leads him to the audience chamber where he meets King Arnold as well as Luna and Lexia. Arnold starts tweaking and things get very sus when Yuya offers a special Japanese bed to Lexia as a gift. Suddenly, some mysterious men surround them. The king's guards try to take them out with magic, but one of them uses the magic ceiling barrier to create an anti-magic barrier. However, Yuya swiftly takes down these assassins with the help of his pets, and Lexia hugs him in appreciation, causing Arnold to lose it. Owen shows the king a ring which he found on one of the assassins, and this helps them figure out that the prince is the one behind the attacks. Yuya goes to see Lexia in her room, and she stuns him by coming outside before he can knock. Lexia then offers to give the Riz King a tour of the city, but Luna opposes the idea because it would put the princess at risk. She instead offers to take Yuya on the sightseeing trip while Lexia stays at home. Owen shows up and offers to show you around while both ladies remain at the palace, but they both shut him down immediately.
Emotional, damn it!
A while later, Owen watches from afar while the two ladies show Yuya around town. The people around get jealous when they see how closely Lexia and Luna are clinging to the Riz Lord. They eventually arrive at a guild hall, and Luna asks Yuya if he's interested in the Adventurers Guild. The Sigma Lord claims that he's a little interested and also states that he'd registered with a merchant's guild on his way there. Luna suggests he register with the Adventurers Guild because it would make it easier for him to trade in monster materials and do quests to make money. Luna decides to register for the Adventurers Guild as well, even though it made the princess uncomfortable. They enter the guild hall and fill out registration forms. The guild receptionist brings out a crystal to measure their magic capacity. The moment Luna places her hand on the crystal, it glows yellow, and she remarks that she was never too good at magic. When Yuya places his hand on the crystal, it shatters, causing everyone around to lose their minds. Upon reading Yu's form, the receptionist gets alarmed by the fact that he filled 3 forms of magic in it. She explains that using 3 kinds of magic put him in the realm of fairy tales in terms of power level. Afterwards, she hands them their guild cards and gives them some instructions on how to handle jobs before introducing herself as Amelia. Just then, a man eating baddie adventurer slides right up into Yuya's space, wine glass in hand. She butters him up, saying they should team up sometime, while simultaneously stiff-arming the princess away. She then introduces herself as Glenna before walking away. Later that day, Yuya gathers some magical herbs with a group. The princess starts getting competitive, thirsting for the Riz Lord's attention. But her antics get cut short when Owen returns to reveal that they have discovered the prince's location. So, Yuya joins Owen to go find the prince's hideout, sending the ladies back to the castle and safety. Immediately, as they open the door, a dagger flies out and the prince gets violent with the guards, so Yuya helps them corner him. Out of desperation, the prince threatens to unalive himself, but Yu stops him. His numerous attempts to stab the Riz hero fails before night takes him down. Before they could take the prince home, a mysterious lady shows up and tries to kill the prince who she was previously working with. However, her attack is blocked by an arrow from the outside. She then lines up a barrage of magic arrows to take down the guards, but the virgin hero blocks them all with a magic shield. When she hears Yuya's name, she is intrigued. She says it is Lucky, running into him, but she is not prepared to face him right now and will need the power of the vial to fight him, and decides to take a temporary retreat by vanishing into a dark portal. The next day, Owen asks Yuya to attend Prince Reingar's trial, and he agrees. In the audience chamber, Reingar is stripped of his clothes and Yuya is shocked to see the scars on the deranged prince's body. Reingar then starts rage-baiting his family members, and he makes it known that his scars came about because Lexia once lost control of her magic. He blames his father for doing nothing to save him and removing him from the castle instead. As Reingar speaks about his bitter experiences and feelings, RMC Boy realizes that he felt everything the dumb prince was talking about during his days as the hated fatty. Reingar asks for a swift death, but Yuya interrupts their family drama by feeding him his cure-all herb. The potion makes all the scars on Reingar's body to completely disappear, and everyone is dumbfounded by this. The king thanks him for using a rare potion to heal his son, but Yuya claims that he has a ton of it growing in his yard.
Who are you?
The prince says there's no way to avoid his death sentence even though his scars are healed. But Lexia shockingly pardons him for his crimes and forces King Arnold to agreeing with her. Afterwards, Reingar thanks Yu for saving him. As a reward for his heroic deeds, the king offers Yuya some lands in the kingdom as well as the position of Lord Knight. Later that night, our newly minted Lord Knight says goodnight to his pets before falling asleep on his bed. He ends up having a nightmare about the mysterious lady that forces him to wake up. Some days later, Yuya makes a run for it after school and arrives at the forest to train. And it's there where he gets ambushed by the mysterious lady. She tells him that he's interfering with her plans for revenge and then fires a rain of arrows at him. Yu dodges, but she appears behind him. Meanwhile, Kaori arrives at Yuya's home and walks into the other world to look for him. The mystery lady corners the Timu Dark Knight, and he tries to fight back using a combo attack with Knight, but she sees right through them. She fires a massive arrow to end Yu, but he dodges, and then he hears Kaori yelling his name. Yuya saves Kaori from a massive shot, which the mystery lady sent, only to land in a more dangerous position in front of the villain. When she fires the finishing shot at him, Rabbit makes a dramatic entrance by saving him, and then identifies the mystery lady as Yudi, the successor of the late divine archer. Yudi speaks about how she intends to get revenge for her master who was betrayed by humans, but Rabbit tells her she's going in the wrong direction. She says she doesn't care and begins attacking them again. As they fight off her attacks, Rabbit orders Yuya to copy his power move. Yu pulls it off, and with an assist from Knight, he takes Yudi down. However, Yudi gets so enraged that she unveils the power of the vial within her, and this allows her to fight on equal terms with Rabbit. Akatsuki then uses his divine healing ability to neutralize Yudi's dark energy, allowing the virgin hero to knock her out with a karate chop.
What the fuck?
Rabbit explains to Yu that Akatsuki is a rare being capable of fighting against the vial, and then tells him to look after Yudi before running off. As Kaori approaches Yuya, he notices a huge boar behind her and takes it out with his spear. He then explains to her that he's secretly an isekai Batman, and she tells him that he hadn't changed since the day he saved her. Thanks for sticking around. You are a true bussin' hero. To confuse the fake fans, drop Yudi Rain's arrows in the comments. Like, subscribe, and check out one of our other exciting videos. Stay awesome. Stay Annie Geek.